To Capitol Hill now, where Senate Judiciary Chairman Lindsey Graham is introducing a resolution condemning House Democrats' impeachment inquiry. Let's listen in.
Inquiry, and it's a substantial deviation from what the House has done in the past regarding impeachment of other presidents. And one I can speak of very firmly is the impeachment of President Clinton. So what I want to highlight here, well, no, this one. In 2019, Congressman Al Green wanted to open up an impeachment inquiry, which is the right way to do it, by the way. 137 Democrats voted with the GOP against impeaching President Trump. Not one Republican for an inquiry. And what's happened is that the attempt to open up an inquiry of impeachment against President Trump failed miserably. So they've created a new process that I think is very dangerous for the country. Instead of the judiciary looking at a potential impeachable offense, they've created a process in the Intel Committee that's behind closed doors, doesn't provide access to the president's accuser, shuts Republicans out for all practical purposes, and is an unworthy substitute for the way you need to do it, is at its core un-American. And I can tell you what we did in the past. Let's go to 98. In 1998, in October, we had an impeachment inquiry vote on the floor of the House. I was there. 31 Democrats voted to open up an impeachment inquiry. And after that inquiry, where's the other chart? These were the rights given to President Clinton, his team, and members of the minority. None of this exists today. What's going on is a run around the impeachment process, creating a secret proceeding behind closed doors that fundamentally is, in my view, denies due process. And when you're talking about removing the President of the United States, seems to me you'd want to have a process that is consistent with who we are as Americans and consistent with what Bill Clinton was allowed to do, Richard Nixon was allowed to do, and the process in the House today, I think, is danger to the future of the presidency. Because if you can drive down a president's poll numbers by having proceedings where you selectively leak information, where the president, who's the subject of all this, is pretty much shut out, God help future presidents. I've got 41 co-sponsors on the Republican side and climbing. And here's the request. If you believe you have a case against the president, vote to open up an inquiry, allow Republicans to have a say, make sure the president is allowed to participate in a meaningful manner like we did in the past. That's the way to do it. What you're doing today, in my view, is unfair to the president and is dangerous to the presidency. And I think 41 Republican senators and growing is a strong signal to our House colleagues that you're off script here. There's a way to do it, a right way and a wrong way, and you've chosen the wrong way. Yes, ma'am.
Chairman Graham, your committee interviewed half a dozen people behind closed doors in your Russia investigation. Donald Trump Jr., Glenn Simpson, Robert Goldstone, and then you released the transcripts at the end. How's that any different from what the House is doing now?
I didn't interview any of these witnesses. That was pretty much intel.
So this is the Judiciary Committee.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. This is not an informal. We're looking at the Russian investigation. Mueller testified. So this was all about Mueller. So here's what happened. Ken Starr spent almost 5 years looking at Clinton. He came before the committee. We had an impeachment inquiry vote. Ken Starr put forth to the Senate Judiciary Committee the 11 allegations against President Clinton. We passed 4 articles of impeachment based on the Starr report that was transparent, subject to cross-examination in public. It was a public hearing, and 2 of those articles passed the House. What Mueller did was investigate the president for 2 years, spent $25 million, and did not recommend any action. That's the difference.
When it comes to impeachment messaging, it seems like the White House has changed course multiple times. At this point,
have you noticed?
At this point, are you confident that you guys are on the same page? And is it the Hill now leading this messaging strategy?
So I talked to the Chief of Staff Mulvaney. I think they're working on getting a messaging team together. You know, I was involved in impeachment of President Clinton. I know this sounds weird, but Clinton, look what he did. What he did is he had a team that was organized, had legal minds that could understand what was being said versus the legal proceedings in question, and they were on message every day. The President Clinton defended himself, but he never stopped being president. And I think one of the reasons that he survived is that the public may not have liked what the president had done, but believed that he was still able to do his job. And as he governed during impeachment, I think that was probably the single best thing he did, quite frankly, to avoid bad outcomes. I'm hoping that will become the model here.
Senator, you've referred to Robert Mueller's investigation and Starr's investigation.
Yeah.
There is no prosecutor looking into the allegations that the combined House committees are looking into. Now, you were a prosecutor, sir. Would you ever have conducted an investigation in which your witnesses were allowed to speak in public and give other witnesses the opportunity to
That's
hear
actually a very good point. I mean, during the whole Mueller investigation, I backed off of calling a lot of the key witnesses because I didn't want to get in his lane. Now, I'm being asked by Republican folks out in the Republican world, why don't you call Adam Schiff? Well, I think that would do a lot of damage to the country for a senator to call a member of the House. You have a speech and debate problem. But if you think Adam Schiff is a fact witness, why isn't Donald Trump a fact witness? The point is that's not a process that I think will withstand scrutiny.